please, a big, big clap and warm welcome to Matt Kendall.
I was clapping myself then, I don't know what's going on. I've never been to a safe space before. I'm from London, I'm just not to be stabbed. How are we doing all? Brighton? It's like a stand-up comedy gig. My mother-in-law. Right, okay. Let's get this sorted. This is going to be funny tonight, right? Well, my bit will be. If it's not, it's your fault. So I want you to jump up, come on, laugh, because we're recording it, so edit that out. But please do laugh along, because we're going to be talking about some quite negative things, and the way that I deal with trauma and working with clients is by making it quite humorous. Rather than going into the story of the problem, I look at the structure of the memory. So all the work I do is called content-free. That means we look at how it's structured and what we call the submodalities, not the story, what someone's story is. Show of hands, who thinks you can remove a negative memory? Right. So that's about 5 of you out of 50. Edit. I'll edit all this for you if you want. Right, okay. Right, well, you can't. So thanks for your attention. So you can't remove it, but you can change your relationship to it. When you change the way you see something, the thing you're seeing changes. And I'm going to show you how you can do that by using the eyes. So my background is that, I became a hypnotherapist, and I didn't mean to. I was at a networking event, because I used to run a printing company, and I met this guy who was a hypnotherapist, and he goes, do you want to be hypnotised for £10? And I'm northern, so I said, yes, I like a bargain. It's a true story. So I got hypnotised, and I loved it. He had a lisp, so it was a strange vocation for him. And just relax. It was very weird. And at the end of it, he said, I think you should train to be a hypnotherapist, because he found loads of problems, obviously, that weren't there. And so I said, yeah, okay, I'll train to be a hypnotherapist. Why not? So I went and I trained, and I didn't like a lot of it. I didn't really agree with a lot of it, but then I found some really interesting stuff within it. I then came down to Brighton, actually. I met somebody outside of it. It's Comedia, I believe the venue called. This guy, this was before the internet, really. This is how old I am. And he goes, I'll be having a drink of orange and wearing glasses or something. It was like a blind date, because I knew him from therapy. And he said to me, do you want to come and learn about this thing about moving the eyes to do trauma or something? I went, yeah, because I'm quite suggestible like that. So we went along, and I met this guy called Andrew Austin, who's based down here, actually. And he said to me, do you have a memory which sticks out for all the wrong reasons? I said, yes, lots. And he moved my eyes. And in that moment, it changed my life and my career. Because I was working with people for hypnotherapy, doing many, many, many sessions. What I can do with a client now, you would usually take about 12 sessions of hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy is a brief change work tool in itself. So as soon as it became an actual formal training, I went and trained in it. I then worked with so many people. And then as soon as I could train to be a trainer, I did that. And I now train, I did one last weekend, I don't know, it's all a blur. But I trained 12 people. So I mainly train people in the coaching world, therapists, and it's now being changed. So it's now going to be CPD. So that means we can actually train doctors and nurses as well. So it's a weekend training that I do from my clinic in London Bridge. I do have flyers available if you'd like to learn about this. So like I say, it's just a weekend. And I just absolutely love this approach to working with people, because when you have trauma, speaking about that trauma can be quite traumatizing. Now, I work with guys, and guys don't necessarily guys have very negative away from strategies, drinking, drugs, whatever it might be, rather than dealing with the problem itself. IEMT allows you to deal with it without having to talk about it. Because often, again, going for trauma therapy can be quite traumatizing in itself, because you have to keep talking and talking and talking about it. Well, we don't have to, and still actually get great changes. So there's the big difference between positive and negative memories. Generally, positive memories, they're in your past, they tend to be a picture, and there tends to be some emotion. Negative memories tend to be different. Negative memories are what we call subjective. It's like you are there. It's like you are living it. So you close your eyes, you're still living it. So when I'm working with people who have come back from conflict, Afghanistan, for example, they close their eyes, they are still in trauma. They're still in the theatre of conflict. So what happens is, with a negative memory, with a traumatic memory, the brain doesn't know to close it off. It doesn't know to shut it down. So it keeps it open because it thinks it's going to happen again. So it keeps you on red alert, okay? Keeps you on red alert. What happens is that we have what we call the limbic system within the brain, and this is how we believe it's working. So when you're taking information in, you have the amygdala and the hippocampus, which are the two main players in the limbic system. The amygdala is a small diamond-shaped organ, and that regulates emotion and the quality of the memory. The hippocampus sits behind it, looks like a seahorse. It'll be a pub quiz question. So it looks like a seahorse. And that's like the sorting. That actually basically was, okay, it puts a date stamp on it and then puts it into long-term memory. When you're experiencing a traumatic event, shall we say, if there's a lot of emotion, the amygdala works better. However, the hippocampus is actually impaired. So the result is you get a memory that's really rich in sensory information. So you know when you're experiencing trauma, it's almost like being in slow motion. It's like opening the frame rate on a camera. It's taking in all it can because it wants to. Because if this is dangerous, your brain wants to know as much as it can about this situation to keep you alive in the future. So it takes in all this information that's around you. But the hippocampus is impaired, so it's not able to put a date stamp on it, and it's not able to file it away. It's almost just left in limbo. It's not closed down. It's like you know when you have a laptop and you minimize the windows. They're not closed, they are still there. And when you have lots of these windows running, it slows the whole system down. And also you can get pop-ups. These can be like your flashbacks. Does that make sense? Yes. Fabulous. So the way that IEMT works to what we believe, I actually had a neuroscientist on the other course a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking at length about how we believe it's working. We are trying to get the funding so we can do it within scanners, but at the moment I can't explain why it's working. This is how I believe it's working. When you actually focus on the negative memory and have your eyes moved, we believe it's re-stimulating the limbic system. That means you can look at a negative memory and have it processed from where you are today. When you process the memory from where you are today, it literally takes out the emotion, it impairs how you actually access it, and it puts it into your timeline. So basically, you know it's something in your past. You can't change what's happened to you, but you can change how it affects you. Now, we have these memories that are causing us problems without you knowing it. Now, IEMT works in two main ways. I can only teach you one way today, just because of time. So basically, it works on removing or dealing with actual specific memories, and then it works on what we call the imprint. So if you have a negative emotion, you take the emotion, you regress it back to how you learned how to feel that way, and then you work on the imprints or the sensitizing events. But today, I want to give you something practical that you can use. And you can use this when you go home. I've got an actual handbook all about this. If you want the notes about it, I will give you my email. You can just drop me an email. I'll send it to you completely free of charge, $5,000 whatever. I'll send it to you free of charge. And again, if you want any more information, I'm always on Facebook. And I actually do lots of talks with a company called Funzing, you may have heard about. I speak in this room quite regularly. We had 80 people last time, it was stupid. But I do speak around here quite a lot. So, and that's obviously like a 2-hour talk as well. So, what we're going to do, we're actually going to use some negative memories to get rid of them. I don't want you to use anything that's too traumatic, okay? I really don't want you sort of running out the room or throwing shit at me, right? Okay, I don't want you to do anything too traumatic. Also, if you do have any sort of medical diagnoses, any kind of mental health related issues, please don't take part. Again, I will help you, but please don't take part if you think you might be at risk in any kind of way. Is that fair? Cool, that gets my insurance tick. Right, okay, so this is what we do. We're going to work with somebody near you, and you're going to ask them, do you have a negative, and I must stress, negative memory. Don't do good memories, because they won't come back. Okay, so it has to be a negative memory. Some people do this, and I know at least one of you will. Okay, so you're going to go, do you have a negative memory? And they're going to go, yes. If they haven't, send it to me, I'll give them some. So they're going to go, yes, I've got a negative memory. You're going to say, when you close your eyes and access this memory, is it like a picture or is it like a movie? Now, some people are like, yeah, it's like a moving picture. So we'll call that a movie, all right? Well, so we call that a movie. So if it stays still, it's a picture. If it moves, it's a movie. You're going to ask them, is it subjective or objective? Subjective means you're seeing it like you are there, like you are there. Objective means you are watching it, just from a different perspective. Does that make sense? You're going to ask them how clear and vivid that memory is. And you're going to ask them, out of 10, as you're accessing this memory now, 0 being no connection, 10 being overwhelmed, how strong is that memory? Does that make sense? So I want you to just write these questions down just for now, okay? So you're going to work with somebody. Well, I just want you to write this down. You're going to ask them, is it a picture or is it a movie? Then use your phone or memory. Okay, so yeah, so the first thing, just make a note of the questions. Is it a picture or is it a movie? Is it subjective or objective? How clear and vivid is it? And out of 10, how strong is the emotion as you're accessing it now? Yeah, so basically, these are the questions just to make a note of, then you work with somebody. So you ask them, is it a picture or is it a movie? Is it subjective, like you're there, or objective, like you're watching it? How vivid and clear is this memory? And out of 10, how strong is the emotion as you're accessing it now? Does that make sense? So you have 41 seconds either way. So find somebody who looks like they've got problems and say, do you have a memory which stands out? It's going to be funny. So do they have a memory which stands out? And get the information and write it down. Write the information down, okay? Go, go, go. Okay, so what we do with the person you're working with, it's best if they are sat down, not on a high seat really, but that they are sat down, and we're going to actually move their eyes in a very particular way. We're going to get them to hold on to the memory. So first of all, you get them to close their eyes, hold on to the memory. And when they can hold on to the memory, allow them to open their eyes, and we are then going to move their eyes. Now, IEMT works when two things are present. One, the client is holding on to the memory, and two, you're actually moving their eyes. What I don't want to see is this, okay? That is not moving somebody's eyes. That's moving somebody's head. So, and it will happen. But what you want to do is you want to actually move their eyes just to the periphery. And we're going to do it on 3 different axes, and this is what it will look like. You actually get them to hold the memory, then we start basically the bridge of the nose, and we go all the way to one side, all the way to the other. We do that 6 times. Now, I class that as 1. You'll probably go 1, 2, right? I class that as 1. The reason why we say 6, so hopefully you'll do it 3 times. So we do that 6 times either way, holding on to the memory. We then go to the diagonals 6 times, then we go to the other diagonals 6 times. You give them a minute to blink their eyes and work out what's happening, and you then say to them, but when you think about that memory now, what's it like? And compare it with the information that you wrote down. Does that make sense? Any questions before we do this? Okay, so you want to be doing well, just try it anyway to see how it changes that. But generally, it does work better when there is emotion attached to it. Okay? Any other questions at all? Excellent. You have 1 minute, because I am on a very short time budget. You have 1 minute either way. Go, 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 go. Use the whole room. Okay, guys. How did we find that? It's weird, isn't it? It's really, really weird. What I want you to do, now the thing is, there's a very small room. I've only got 20 minutes. I usually teach this over 2 hours or a weekend. But I just want to give you a tool that you can use and also practice. Just close your eyes for me, if you would. And I just want you to focus on that memory that you worked on and raise your hand and keep it raised if you've experienced any one of these outcomes. Movies tend to turn to pictures. Okay, just raise your hand and keep it raised. Pictures seem further away. The quality's lesser. It's actually less vivid, tends to be more fuzzy. Okay, it's actually hard to get the memory. It basically becomes from subjective to objective. The emotion is less, and it just seems less significant. Just keep your hands raised if you've experienced any one of those. Allow your eyes to open and look around the room. That's what we call a good result, to say that we're in a pub on a Thursday night and I've only got 20 minutes. It's weird. It's really weird. And it'll take about 20 minutes to actually work its way throughout all the brain regions. Later on, think about what that memory is and be going, what's that fucking memory, man? I don't know, but where does it go? You will always know what happened, but you're not able to access it in the same way. Basically, this is how I work with people in trauma. People who don't want to talk about what's happened. They don't have to. Yet they can still get amazing results without having to go through all the counselling and all the therapy. I'm not saying counselling and therapy, I'm not trying to belittle it by any means whatsoever. But the reason why I want to teach this to a lot of people is because we're going through some quite strange times at the moment, don't know if you've noticed. And people, especially guys, they don't like dealing with these things. And guys would prefer to die than bother the doctor sometimes. They really would. So I want to teach these skills because I teach many more skills like this, and I believe it can really help. Now, there's a couple of questions I always get asked. How does this differ from EMDR? I don't entirely know because I'm not trained in EMDR, but on my YouTube channel, just search Matt Kendall or Remove Negative Memories. I'm all over the internet. And I've actually done interviews with people who do EMDR. The other thing I get asked all the time is, can I do this to myself? So here's an answer. Now, I know I'm in Brighton, and so I'm going to have to phrase this very carefully. What you're going to have to do, rather than do it on yourself, find a friend and say, could I borrow your finger? And just teach them the simple eye movements. You don't even need to tell them what the problem is. Does that make sense? Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking for you. I came from London today, so I got sunburnt. Thank you very much. Take care. See you later.